people are very quick to say like, oh, you shouldn't force veganism on your children, but what they forget is they're forcing non-veganism on their children. And most children, I honestly can't think of a single child that if they knew and understood the reality of the food system and the cruelty and suffering and exploitation involved, I can't imagine a single child being okay with that.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Creating a Vegan World. And in this interview, we're talking to Tina Newman. She's a vegan children's book author. And I wanted to interview her because part of the mission of Creating a Vegan World is we see the plant-based movement rising, we see the vegan movement rising. And I always wanted to ask myself the question, if the world were to go to 100% vegan by 2050, what would have to happen to get there? And I reflect back on my experience being a personal development coach, where a lot of times as adults, we have certain beliefs or behaviors in life and try to backtrack to the root cause in the beginning of our younger years. It's really hard to change later in life. So introducing children to veganism at an early age, I think that is a really great idea. So maybe you want to introduce yourself, what your book is, and I guess the problem you saw in the world that you want to solve.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, hi, I'm Tina. I'm a mother of 2 young children myself, and we went vegan in 2017. So our daughters were only 1 and 3 at the time. But straight away, I looked for children's books for vegan children, and I just saw there was a complete lack here in the UK anyway. And I'd already bought some kind of educational books, but I just couldn't find anything that was going to appeal to children in that kind of gentle manner, but still have the fun and the mischief and the magic that children love about books. And I think the problem is, as children, we come into the world with such an innate sense of compassion. Children love animals, they love insects, they want to stroke and cuddle and pick them up, and there's no way children would want to hurt animals at all. But as soon as society and everybody around you starts kind of suppressing that compassion, and you're brought up thinking that you need to eat animals and it's natural, it's necessary, and you need it for your health, that all gets completely suppressed. So I think you're absolutely right, and this is a big passion of mine. Children are the future, as corny as that sounds, but they are, and it starts with them. So I think it's so important to instill those values and beliefs and empower the children to understand that.
Absolutely. And are most of your, I guess, readers or the parents who buy the books, are they vegan themselves and want to introduce their kids to veganism the right way, or is it a mix between vegans and non-vegans who purchase your books?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mix. Obviously, my predominantly it's going to be vegan families who have found me, but we do have people reach out who have vegans in their family, like little nephews and nieces, and they may not necessarily be vegan themselves, and then they're asking me about their books, and then I'm getting people getting back in contact saying, I'm not vegan, I did buy this for somebody, and it really did make me think as well. So although it's obviously aimed at children, if the children aren't old enough to read it themselves, I've been sneaky here because obviously the adults are going to be reading it. So I've got it's aimed at the kids, but there are messages in there that only the adults are really going to understand, and it will obviously challenge them. They'll have to look at the way they're living as well.
Definitely. Do you see more books on your approach where like maybe certain books are more towards vegans, others are for non-vegans, and you have like a different approach? Is that in the works?
Yeah. I mean, I've got obviously I'm writing my 3rd book at the moment, and I've got lots of ideas in my head for things in the future as well, but it's getting that balance right. It's kind of it's a fine line, so you have to be very careful when you're writing, because you want to appeal to vegan children, vegan families, but I also want to appeal to non-vegans as well. So it's trying to get that balance right.
Definitely. And for going back to the bigger picture I was talking about, the like outside influences, of course, when the children grow up to a certain age, they go to school. So I guess what specific problems do you see that I guess we could fix within schools that teach them the lack of compassion, etc.?
Yeah, the school system, that is such a difficult one. because for, you know, forever, like, it's basically not been vegan friendly at all. Everything in school, starting right from nursery, you know, primary school here, going right through, it tends to be geared towards animal exploitation in some way. So through the nursery rhymes and songs that they're singing to young children, you know, the books that they're reading to them, the trips, the school trips they go on, literally everything seems to be geared towards farming, animal exploitation. So it starts so young. And if you're a vegan child in a school, that can be quite isolating, that can be quite distressing. So it's trying to bring about balance into schools. And I'm currently doing a crowdfunder with Animal Justice Project here in the UK. And we have set up this crowdfunder to raise money to send my books into schools as a gift to them. Obviously, we don't know how receptive schools will be here. We're only at the very start of that, but it's trying to offer this inclusivity for schools, because they're currently just not inclusive. And then, as you say, that then goes on through into the secondary schools and the high schools. And we've got a lady here in the UK called Laura Chepner, and she is the first vegan inclusion consultant. And she goes into schools and teaches the staff how to be inclusive, vegan friendly and inclusive. And she is currently working towards getting veganism on the curriculum. So, you know, she's a pioneer. She's incredible here. But it's, you know, it's a slow process. You're working against years and years and years of, you know, the opposite, basically.
Absolutely. And I know friends who are vegan teachers in the United States, and even though they have their vegan beliefs, and when they come to teaching nutrition or food pyramid and other things, it's like they're forced to teach it a certain way because that's what the curriculum is, versus their personal beliefs. And it's a huge, like, clashing of belief systems right there. And then the other big thing you said, like you said, inclusivity, because I think that during one of my interviews with Annette and Graham Henry on this channel, I talked about the vegan community. And the reason I went vegan is because I got invited to potluck dinners. I got invited out to animal rights activism events. And it's because I was around those people, I became vegan without even trying. So everyone asks, like, why'd you go vegan? And I was like, pretty much boredom. I was curious of trying new things. I found some meetup groups. I went to a potluck dinner, and just kind of like, I got pulled in without trying. And then, of course, on the other side of it, I have the three reasons: the health, environmental aspect, and of course the animals. But that must be troubling for, I guess, if your children are in school, they're the only vegans. And do you know do you have any information maybe in your area, just like what percentage of children in schools are raised vegan or things like that?
I mean, it's definitely, we are the minority big time. I mean, even just from this Animal Justice Project crowdfunder, I think we've got a list through now of about 750 schools of the schools who have at least one vegan child in their school. And it's not a lot at all. Even in my school, my kids' school, which is just a little rural village country school, you know, they're the only two full vegans in the school. And yeah, that can be tough for them, obviously.
That was pretty much the standard back as in school in the 90s. And like, I don't think I even heard veganism back then. It's like vegetarian was the extreme route back then. Yeah.
I know, that weird thing, wasn't it?
Definitely. And then maybe shifting focus a bit, like there's the teaching the schools and of course society, but I guess being a parent and being a mother, like raising your children, I guess there's different maybe concerns, struggles. I know a lot of parents, they want to make sure their children get the right nutrition. I'm not sure if you're from a nutrition expert, but you probably know enough. So what different aspects with raising your children or advice for vegan parents who want to raise kids?
It's so funny because before we went vegan, like, I wasn't even thinking about meeting my children's nutritional needs, and are they getting their B12, and are they getting this, and are they getting that? It's just not on your radar. Like, I was a vegetarian before for 21 years, and not once had I heard of B12. Like, I was probably a very unhealthy vegetarian looking back now, but I honestly think the minute you go vegan, like, your eyes, whatever reason that's for, ours was for animals, you know, ethical reasons, but we obviously then went down and educated ourselves on the health aspect, the environmental aspect, and it all kind of ties in then. And but you understand so much more about nutrition. So suddenly you become more aware of meeting your nutritional needs as an adult, and most importantly for our children. And I can honestly say 100% that our health is so much better now because we're on it with making sure that the children are getting what they need. So, originally we bought this little chart which explained each food group and what you could get them from. And it was like £2 and the money supported a sanctuary. And we just had it up for ages and until we kind of really learned what you got from what. And it's just so funny to me because I have people still say to me like, oh, I understand like an adult being vegan or plant-based, but it's a bit dangerous for children. And I kind of look at them and you try not to laugh because their children are sitting there having a fizzy drink and sweets and processed food, and you're like, like obviously in my head I'm just thinking this, but I'm thinking like, you're looking at me nutrition wise, and we try and follow a whole food plant-based diet at home. Processed food is more of like I wouldn't say treat because it's not good for you, but it's rarer, and it's not bad if people just want to eat vegan processed food, but we're trying to just be healthier as well. But you become so much more aware of it that the World Health Organization have said a well-planned plant-based diet is suitable for all stages of life, right through pregnancy, infanthood to old age. But the key there is the word, well-planned. It has to be well-planned for any diet. But it's absolutely fine on a vegan diet.
Absolutely. So speaking of nutrition for children on a plant-based diet, vegan diet, are there specific resources you go to, like a registered dietitian, any books, blogs, or what resources can people go to for that?
There's loads. If you just go online, you can find on the Vegan Society, they've got resources and information. When I first went vegan, I did something called Challenge 22 on Facebook, and that had on there, it was like 22 days because that's how long it needs to break a habit. But it was so helpful for my transition to going plant-based because they had mentors and dietitians and nutritionists online. So if you had any questions that you could just write it and they would get back to you as soon as they could. And within a week they'd kind of made me feel so much more at ease about everything to do with the children. But honestly, there are so many books and vegan influencers and loads of things online where you can just go and ask them questions, and they're also helpful. But honestly, if your child is having the legumes, the grains, the vegetables, the fruits every day, and staying away from, as I say, as much processed stuff as you can. Ours take a multivitamin. I grew up taking a multivitamin, like even as a omnivore vegetarian at different stages in my life. But I honestly feel that they're probably getting everything through their diet anyway. But it's just kind of that peace of mind, that we don't have to worry about the other kind of the harder things to get, like selenium. We just have one Brazil nut every day and we know that we're covered. Just little tips like that, which is just it's really helpful.
Yeah, I try to have one, but I always wind up having like 5 or 6 just because they taste so good.
I know, but then I don't know, can you have too much selenium? Like I've heard, I was like, I just stick with my one and then I know I'm okay.
I eat it for snacks and I'm still alive, so if I disappear, then you'll know why. Then how old did you say your kids were?
They're now 5 and 7, but we went vegan when they were 1 and 3.
From a behavior standpoint, I know maybe they're too young to be the rebellious teenager phase, but is there any hint to that or any other unique struggles keeping their behavior to stay vegan? Or are they fully on board and they believe it, or they understand the animal side of things?
Yeah, so we have 2 girls, and they are very much like me in the way that, I went vegetarian at 11 because of animals. I'm very sensitive to, the plight of animals and their suffering, and I get very, very affected. And I seem to have created 2 mini me's there. They're very, very upset when they see anything. Like, as I say, we live in a rural village, and on the school run, most days we see a truck going past full of animals on the way to a slaughterhouse, and they get very, very upset and very, very bothered. So because I think they have an activist as a mum, they have that compassion anyway, and they're real empaths, that there's no battle with them being vegan. If anything, it's a struggle for them, because they're telling their friends, you know, this is cruel, and why are you eating animals? And it's that kind of side that is harder. You know, it's very hard to imagine them ever going to eat an animal when they're older. Obviously, what they do when they're older is up to them, but we are raising them in such a way that it would seem so alien, I think, to them, because everything we do is around fighting for animals and for the planet.
Okay, so going back to the bigger picture, and maybe your books address this. So a lot of parents, they might not raise their children to be vegan, but for us who are vegan, we understand it. Like, we understand what the difference is, and we kind of like see behind the veil, versus when I was a child, like it didn't process in my mind, and vegans like on the other side. So maybe any tips for like even parents who aren't going to raise their vegan 100%, children vegan 100%, what they could do to at least open their minds, either it's the healthier side, the animal, or the environmental side of things.
Yeah, I think it's really important as adults and parents to tell children the truth, and to give them that opportunity, because people are very quick to say, like, oh, you know, you shouldn't force veganism on your children, but what they forget is they're forcing non-veganism on their children. And most children, I honestly can't think of a single child that, if they knew and understood the reality of, you know, the food system and the cruelty and suffering and exploitation involved, I can't imagine a single child being okay with that. So I think it's really important that parents do tell children the truth. They don't have to go into all of the gory, traumatic details, but to give them the opportunity then. And then if a child does say, well, I don't want to do that anymore, like I did when I was 11, for the parent to say, okay, and respect that, and then allow their child to change their lifestyle, even if the parent isn't going to do that themselves. Because, you know, even my 7-year-old said to me the other day, Mummy, I don't think it's fair that parents don't listen to their children, because a few of her friends have gone home and said to their parents that they want to go vegan because they've been chatting to my girls, and their parents have gone no. And then they've had this whole conversation, and, you know, it's been a conversation that I've had to have with my daughter and say, like, you know, unfortunately, this is probably going to happen, because a lot of parents, they don't want the inconvenience. They don't want to change their own lifestyle. And unfortunately, then that, you know, what kind of message does that give to your child? They've said they want something to happen. They don't want to be part of it anymore. And their parent has just straight away squashed that, and they've suppressed that. So I think, you know, moving forward, for our children and the future generations, they are going to be the most impacted by climate change. They're going to be the ones who are most affected by what we're doing at the moment with, you know, factory farming, global warming, everything. And I think, you know, that's why the millennials and the younger generations, they are the driving force with the vegan movement, really, because, you know, everything is available and accessible online, and it's so easy for them to see it and share with their friends. But, you know, for their sake, older generations need to respect that and encourage them, even if they're too stuck in their ways and too conditioned to change themselves. They need to make it, you know, accessible, and allow their children to do that. So I think that is the most important thing. And going even further with, you know, looking at the bigger picture, the government, in the, you know, I won't go too political with it, but, you know, the corruption at such a deep level, like, you know, everything needs to come. People like to be told what to do. So unless the government or the NHS here in the UK say, you know, you need to go plant-based for your health, or you need to go plant-based to save the planet, and these are the steps that we need to put in place, unless that is said, people are just not going to do it. And I think that's a real shame, because you know, you've got people who are making changes, even though that's not being said yet. But until that happens, I think people will just stay in the background, because they don't want to look like the odd one out, or they don't want to look like the weirdo for going vegan. And so there's still so much work to do, but it does ultimately start with the individual, so the parent and the child.
Absolutely. And I love how the things like you speak about in my last interview, it just, everything is connected together with all the other interviews I'm doing. Absolutely. Where it's like the creating change at the system level, where one is Renewal Mill. They take the, I guess, the soy or the pulp from tofu, and they
Okay.
turn that into some type of baking powder. So things from a tofu factory that was previously thrown away or discarded, they make the change. It's more environmentally friendly there.
Mm.
Whereas someone else I spoke with, he invested in it's like the saran wrap company, but it's
Yeah.
biodegradable. So
Wow.
with all those things, like there's individual behavior change with like using reusable straws versus plastic straws, which with 8 billion people coming on this planet, it's going to be like difficult. But the higher up you go, where I spoke to Emma Hurst, she's in the political party in Sydney, Australia here. And she
Okay.
said there's the street activism, individual change, then the
Mm.
businesses catch up, and then government has to step in after the businesses change. So it's like individuals first, the bigger, and then once the movement goes, that's where like the tipping point happens. And I
Yeah,
probably
you're
mentioned
so
in
right.
I think I mentioned in like every interview, I think Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point is a book where it talks about when a
Okay.
certain part of the population goes away, then the rest just kind of
Mm.
falls like dominoes. So if anybody watching this knows him, I'd love to interview him on this channel. So put me in touch if you can. But
Awesome.
definitely. So going to I guess back to your book and everything. So I'd like to ask this question where picture it's 2050, you fulfilled your mission with the book, the change you want to make. What does the world look like in terms of, is your book in like all the schools? Do you do other things that you put out there? Like what's like the end goal? What will the world look like?
Oh, my end goal, my dream would be that it would be a vegan world by then. But I think that's a little bit too optimistic, although I'm ever the optimist. I think for me, on a personal level, I would have a string of books for children. I would have a series for that kind of teenage, that young teenage age as well. I would have it turned into a vegan TV series because there's currently nothing available again. And, you know, my children are watching cartoons where even, you know, the animals are eating eggs and things, and none of it makes sense. And yeah, the goal would be that all of the schools and the nurseries would have copies of my books or other vegan books, as many vegan books and resources as possible, and that veganism is on the curriculum, and that it's balanced, like that it's not just one way all the time.
That's amazing. And I think you mentioned this twice where like there's different age groups. And I relate it to the work I'm doing with this brand in the documentary where I make the videos on YouTube, then I post a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. That's where we connected. And I'm
Yeah.
turning 35 this year, and people in my age range and older are like on LinkedIn, then Facebook, Instagram's a little bit younger, then there's TikTok, where some of the things on there I don't relate to at all, but
Yeah.
it gets the message across to younger generations. So like hitting all areas as well as you with the children's book, it's just everybody's playing their unique part, and it's amazing how everything comes together.
Definitely.
And is there any? Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's funny because I've just turned 35 and I only got myself on Instagram like 2 years ago for my books. And I am not on TikTok. And everyone keeps saying to me, you need to get on TikTok because you will reach that younger generation. And to me, I feel like an old lady because I'm just like, oh, I can't take another thing. Like it's already hard enough keeping up with LinkedIn and social media and just. But yeah, I understand that there's a whole other audience to reach there with veganism. So maybe I'll have to just go for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have an Instagram account for years, but like just getting myself to post on it consistently and like knowing all those things, I found someone else who's going to work as sort of like an intern, and they're going to take over the Instagram
Oh, cool.
type of thing. So even if you don't do it, maybe there's someone that could believe in your cause and they know
Yeah,
what they're doing with
that's true.
TikTok, and they could always help out. So any
That's
final
true.
word, any final words you want to leave with anyone viewing this?
If they're not already vegan, go vegan. Like the best thing you could do, like the single biggest thing you could do to reduce your impact on our planet. You know, it's a win-win all round. Like I honestly, I feel frustrated not knowing all of this because I would have done it back when I was a child, when I first found out. And obviously I'm such an animal lover. I would have just, you know, done that when I was 11. But you know, I feel like if you feel like you can't go fully vegan, then just start making small changes. You know, don't be overwhelmed. Just start by veganizing your meals. Like it doesn't have to be some crazy thing. You don't have to start eating tempeh every day. And, you know, it doesn't have to be this massive change. Just pick your favorite foods, veganize them, start making your, your swaps at home, like you say, swap your straws, your toothbrushes, all of these little things, because they all add up and it has a massive impact. And to anyone watching, if they have children, obviously my books are available worldwide as well. So and I just really hope that it can have a positive impact on children everywhere, because I feel like children need to be empowered. They need to understand that they're superheroes. That's why I've made them superheroes in my book. Like, you are a superhero every day if you're vegan, because you're saving animals. You don't have to put on a cape and tights and run out and actively save an animal. You are doing that just through your lifestyle choice. So yeah.
Great. What's the name of the book for people listening to this, and the website they could go to find more?
So my first book is Vivi the Super Vegan. I don't know if you can see because it's very bright on here.
It's very bright, but I see a little bit.
Yeah. And then we've got Vivi and the Planet Protector, which is my second book. And the third book is out this year, but it's just vivthesupervegan.co.uk, and the same handle on Instagram and Facebook and everything. So
and Amazon, is it on there as well?
It's on Amazon UK. We're just working at getting it on Amazon US as well, but it's all very complicated, so it's taking a bit of time.
Great. I'll put links in the description for the books for anyone who wants to check it out. So thank you so much for taking the time for doing this interview.
No worries. Thank you for asking.